Let us pray. We give thanks to God for the rich heritage of this province as found in our people. We pray that native-born Albertans and those who have come from other places may continue to work together to preserve and enlarge the precious heritage called Alberta. Amen.
Introduction of visitors. Presenting petitions. Reading and receiving petitions. Presenting reports by standing and special committees.
Member for Cardston.
Mr. Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 52, I hereby present 4 copies of the 1990-91 report of the Standing Committee on the Alberta Heritage Savings Trust Fund Act. Copies are presently being printed and will be available to members shortly.
Notices of motions.
Member for Edmonton Highlands.
Mr. Speaker, I rise under the provisions of Standing Order 40 to request consent of the Assembly following question period today to agree to switching the order of motions, private members' motions, such that the one now currently numbered 201 standing in Mr. Martin's name be switched with the one currently numbered 208 standing in Mr. McInnes's name.
Thank you. Procedural. Member for Edmonton Kingsway.
Mr. Speaker, I rise under Standing Order 30 to request leave at the end of question period, that is, to request leave to move to adjourn the ordinary business of the Assembly to discuss this government's role in privatizing AGT and buying back Novotel Communications, which has led to the massive debt recently reported by Novotel and the major layoffs announced last Friday.
Introduction of bills.
Member for Drumheller.
Mr. Speaker, I beg leave to introduce Bill number 10, the Enduring Power of Attorneys Act. The purpose of this bill, which has been developed in close cooperation with the Alberta Law Reform Institute, is to make it possible for a person to grant a power of attorney that endures beyond the donor's possible mental incapacity, and would therefore make it unnecessary for the expense of an application for trusteeship under the Dependent Adults Act.
The Honourable Member for Drumheller has moved Bill number 10, Powers of Attorney Act, for first reading. Those in favor, please say aye. Opposed, please say no. So ordered.
Bill number 10, Powers of Attorney Act, introduced by the Honourable Member Mr. Schumacher, is now read a first time.
Calgary Glenmore.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to introduce and move first reading of Bill number 4, the Social Worker Professional Act. And this act is to help maintain our high standards of the social work practice for Albertans.
The Honourable Member for Calgary Glenmore has moved first reading of Bill 4, Social Work Profession Act. Those in favor of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 4, Social Work Profession Act, introduced by the Honourable Member Mrs. Myrosh, is now read a first time.
Member for Lloydminster.
Mr. Speaker, I beg leave to introduce Bill number 3, the Forest and Prairie Protection Amendment Act 1991. Mr. Speaker, the purpose of this legislation is to provide for improvements in the government's ability to control burning, prevent forest fires, and it would increase the maximum fines for infractions.
The Honourable Member for Lloydminster has moved first reading of Bill number 3, Forest and Prairie Protection Amendment Act 1991. Those members in favor of first reading, please say aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 3, Forest and Prairie Protection Amendment Act 1991, introduced by the Honourable Member Mr. Cherry, is now read a first time.
Calgary Foothills.
Mr. Speaker, I beg leave to introduce Bill 5, the Mines and Minerals Amendment Act 1991. Bill 5 proposes several changes, primarily of an administrative nature. The bill does, however, address such issues as accretion of lands and misdescription of zones. I look forward to debate during the subsequent readings of this bill.
The honourable member for Calgary Foothills has moved first reading to Bill number 5, Mines and Minerals Act 1991. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. So ordered.
Bill number 5, Mines and Minerals Act 1991, introduced by the honourable member Mrs. Black, is now read a first time.
Member for Highwood.
Mr. Speaker, I request leave to introduce a bill number 7, being the Turner Valley Unit Operations Amendment Act 1991. This act will no longer require a hearing on routine, non-controversial matters, permitting same to be dealt with by the Energy Conservation Board.
The honourable member for Highwood has moved first reading to Bill number 7, Turner Valley Unit Operations Amendment Act 1991. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. So ordered.
Bill number 7, Turner Valley Unit Operations Amendment Act 1991, introduced by the honourable member Mr. Tanis, is now read a first time.
Honourable member for Calgary Fish Creek.
Mr. Speaker, I beg leave today to introduce Bill number 6, the Oil and Gas Conservation Amendment Act. This amending legislation, Mr. Speaker, will allow the Energy Resources Conservation Board to implement a more simplified crude oil pro-rationing program, replacing an outdated, overly complex pro-rationing system that's been in effect since 1950 and is no longer appropriate for a deregulated industry. I might add, Mr. Speaker, that these amendments have been developed after several years of extensive consultation with all sectors of the industry.
The honourable member for Calgary Fish Creek has moved first reading to Bill number 6, Oil and Gas Conservation Amendment Act 1991. Those members in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 6, Oil and Gas Conservation Amendment Act 1991, introduced by the honourable member Mr. Payne, is now read a first time.
Deputy Premier.
Mr. Speaker, I move that bills number 10, number 4, number 3, number 5, number 7, and number 6, just introduced, be placed on the order paper under Government Bills and Orders.
Having heard the motion by the Government House Leader, those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Mr. Speaker, I seek unanimous consent of the Assembly to waive Standing Order 68 to permit the introduction of private members' public bills today only.
Having heard the motion, those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Motion carries. Let the record show unanimously. Thank you. Just have a moment. Member for Calgary Mountain View.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request leave to introduce Bill number 201, being the Financial Accountability Act. Mr. Speaker, this bill amends a number of statutes, among them the Treasury Branches Act, the Auditor General Act, Financial Administration Act, the Pension Fund Act, and the Interprovincial Lotteries Act. As examples, its intention is to remove a lot of the secrecy which has surrounded government management of the financial affairs of Alberta, and its effect would be to make more information available to the public and to the legislature, and in that way make government more accountable for their decisions and their financial management of the affairs of the province.
Before the chair continues, perhaps members wishing to introduce their bills would follow in the numerical sequence, as it would be much easier for the chair to deal with. Thank you. The honourable member for Calgary Mountain View has moved first reading of Bill 201, Financial Accountability Act. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 201, Financial Accountability Act, introduced by the honourable member Mr. Hawksworth, is now read a first time.
And for Edmonton Jasper Place.
Mr. Speaker, I request leave to introduce the bill being the Environmental Bill of Rights Act. The bill provides access to information on environmental issues for Albertans in a form they can understand. It includes procedural rights such as the right to be heard and the right to take legal action to protect our life support system. In the years since I first introduced the bill, the government of the Northwest Territories has passed such legislation, and Ontario is expected to later this year.
The honourable member for Edmonton Jasper Place has moved first reading of Bill 202, Environmental Bill of Rights Act. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 202, Environmental Bill of Rights Act, introduced by the honourable member, Mr. McInnes, is now read a first time.
Calgary McCall.
Mr. Speaker, I request leave to introduce a bill being an act to create a commission to examine the legal reform in Alberta's justice system. Mr. Speaker, the purpose of this bill is to have a commission examine the justice system in Alberta and recommend changes that would better meet the challenges of the 90s and the needs of all Albertans.
The honourable member for Calgary McCall has moved first reading to Bill 203, an act to create a commission to examine legal reform in Alberta's justice system. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 203, an act to create a commission to examine legal reform in Alberta's justice system, introduced by honourable member Mr. Nelson, is now read a first time.
Edmonton Glengarry.
Mr. Speaker, I request leave to introduce Bill 204 for first reading, being bill entitled Freedom of Information and Protection of Personal Privacy Act. The bill is intended to open up for Albertans access to information at every level of government, including commissions and independent agencies governed by either municipal or provincial governments. The bill contains provisions whereby independent reviews would take place on decisions to withhold information. Thank you.
The honourable member for Edmonton Glengarry has moved first reading of Bill 204, Freedom of Information and Protection of Personal Privacy Act. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 204, Freedom of Information and Protection of Personal Privacy Act, introduced by the honourable member Mr. Decor, is now read a first time.
Pincher Creek Crow's Nest on behalf of the member for Banff Cochrane.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the honourable member for Banff Cochrane, I beg leave to introduce Bill 205, the Children's Access Rights Enforcement Act. This bill seeks to protect non-custodial parents' rights to access their children when ordered by the court. This bill provides various remedies to those who feel they have been wrongfully denied access by the custodial parent. It also attempts to speed up the processing of such claims by specifying strict timelines in which a case must be heard.
The honourable member for Pincher Creek Crow's Nest on behalf of the member for Banff Cochrane has moved first reading of Bill 205, Children's Access Rights Enforcement Act. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. So ordered.
Bill number 205, Children's Access Rights Enforcement Act, introduced by the honourable member Mr. Bradley, is now read a first time.
Edmonton Calder.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request leave to introduce Bill number 206, the Children's Rights Act. This bill establishes all children's rights to basic necessities of life and will commit the government to improving the quality of life for all Alberta children. This bill is particularly important because of the need for all the provinces to ratify the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child this year.
The honourable member for Edmonton Calder has moved first reading of Bill 206, Children's Rights Act. Those members in favour of first reading, please say aye. Opposed, please say no. So ordered.
Bill number 206, Children's Rights Act, introduced by the honourable member Ms. Melsness, is now read a first time.
Edmonton Glengarry.
Mr. Speaker, I request leave to introduce Bill 207, being a bill titled An Act to Require Full Disclosure and Maintenance of Government-Backed Pension Plans. This is an act which would require the orderly paydown of the unfunded pension liability in the government's 6 guaranteed pension plans and the TRF, the Teachers' Retirement Fund. The act would require full disclosure of any actuarial studies relating to these pension plans. Thank you.
The honourable member for Edmonton Glengarry has moved first reading of Bill 207. Those in favor of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 207, an act to require full disclosure and maintenance of government-backed pension plans, introduced by the honourable member, Mr. Decor, is now read a first time.
Member for Edmonton Glengarry.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to request leave to introduce Bill 208, an act entitled An Act to Amend the Public Service Employee Relations Act. This act has an amendment which will allow public service employees the right to strike. Thank you.
The honourable member for Edmonton Glengarry has moved first reading of Bill 208, an act to amend the Public Service Employee Relations Act. Those in favor of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Order. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 208, an act to amend the Public Service Employee Relations Act, introduced by the honourable member, Mr. Decor, is now read a first time.
Edmonton Meadowlark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I request leave to introduce Bill 209, the Air Quality Act. This bill would ensure that air in Alberta is of the highest quality and presents no hazard to human health, with standards for ambient air quality being set at levels approved by the Minister of Health.
The honourable member for Edmonton Meadowlark has moved first reading of Bill 209, Air Quality Act. Those in favor of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 209, Air Quality Act, introduced by the honourable member, Mr. Mitchell, is now read a first time.
Edmonton Avonmore.
Mr. Speaker, I beg leave to introduce a bill to provide for equal pay for work of equal value. It establishes the principles and general procedures for addressing the well-documented inequities that exist in Alberta between job classes dominated by women and men. It establishes a pay equity bureau and is founded in the principle that pay equity should exist everywhere in the workplace in Alberta, not just government and not just workplaces with unions and collective agreements.
The honourable member for Edmonton Avonmore has moved first reading of Bill 210, Equal Pay for Work of Equal Value Act. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 210, Equal Pay for Work of Equal Value Act, introduced by the honourable member, Ms. M. Lang, is now read a first time.
Edmonton Belmont.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I request leave to introduce Bill 211, Labor Relations Code Amendment Act. Mr. Speaker, this bill, when passed, would facilitate the organization of those workers who so desire into collective bargaining units. It also provides, Mr. Speaker, for automatic certification of those organizing drives that have signed up a majority of workers at the job site.
The honourable member for Edmonton Belmont has moved first reading of Bill 211, Labor Relations Code Amendment Act. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 211, Labor Relations Code Amendment Act, introduced by the honourable member, Mr. Sigerson, is now read a first time.
Pincher Creek Crow's Nest.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the honourable member for Smoky River, I beg leave to introduce a bill being Bill 212, an act to amend the Water Resources Act. This bill establishes a system of provincial water management districts to ensure that decisions with respect to surface and groundwater reflect local or regional conditions and interests.
The honourable member for Pincher Creek Crow's Nest, on behalf of the member for Smoky River, has moved first reading of Bill 212, an act to amend the Water Resources Act. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 212, an act to amend the Water Resources Act, introduced by the honourable member, Mr. Bradley, is now read a first time.
Member for Edmonton Norwood, Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg leave to introduce Bill number 213, the Community Health Centre Act. This bill would enable a variety of low-cost, frontline community health centres to offer health care services by a variety of licensed providers on a salary basis. It would also enable government to directly fund the operational and capital costs of these non-profit health care centers.
The honourable member for Edmonton Norwood has moved first reading of Bill 213, Community Health Center Act. Those in favor of first reading, please say aye. Opposed, please say no. Motion carries.
Bill number 213, Community Health Center Act, introduced by the honourable member, Mr. Martin, is now read a first time.
Member for Drumheller.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is my pleasure today to reintroduce the Tobacco Control Act as Bill 214. The objective of this bill is to protect adolescents from the disease, disability, and death associated with the consumption of tobacco products by, one, ensuring that tobacco products will not be sold to individuals under 18 years of age, and two, increasing the penalty of those found guilty of selling tobacco products to persons under the age of 18 years.
The honourable member for Drumheller has moved first reading of Bill 214, Tobacco Control Act. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 214, Tobacco Control Act, introduced by the honourable member, Mr. Schumacher, is now read a first time.
Calgary McCall.
Mr. Speaker, I beg leave to introduce a bill being an act to amend the Legal Profession Act. The purpose of this bill, Mr. Speaker, is to enable a lawyer-layman grievance board to be developed to better address the needs of the general public when they feel the present system of the Law Society fails them.
The honourable member for Calgary McCall has moved first reading of Bill 215, an act to amend the Legal Profession Act. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 215, an act to amend the Legal Profession Act, introduced by the honourable member, Mr. Nelson, is now read a first time.
Calgary McKnight, Edmonton Gold Bar on behalf of. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on behalf of my colleague, the member for Calgary McKnight, I beg leave to introduce Bill 216. This being an act to amend the Amusements Act. Mr. Speaker, the purpose of the act is to make it an offense to rent or exhibit pornographic films to minors.
The honourable member for Edmonton Gold Bar, on behalf of the member for Calgary McKnight, has moved first reading to Bill 216, an act to amend the Amusements Act. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 216, an act to amend the Amusements Act, introduced by the honourable member, Mrs. Hughes, is now read a first time.
Edmonton Gold Bar.
Mr. Speaker, I beg leave on behalf of the member for Calgary McKnight to introduce Bill 217, an act to eliminate ancillary fees at colleges, technical institutes, and universities. This bill, Mr. Speaker, would eliminate all mandatory campus-wide ancillary fees used by these institutions for purposes already covered by tuition fees. This should not preclude the collection of fees for student association activities, athletics, or recreation fees.
The member for Edmonton Gold Bar has moved on behalf of the member for Calgary McKnight, Bill 217, an act to eliminate ancillary fees at colleges, technical institutes, and universities act. Those in favor of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 217, an act to eliminate ancillary fees at colleges, technical institutes, and universities, introduced by the honourable member, Mrs. Hughes, is now read a first time.
Edmonton Whiteman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg leave to introduce Bill 218, an act to amend the Crown Property Municipal Grants Act. The purpose of the act would be to ensure that the provincial government provides a regularly scheduled payment to municipalities in lieu of taxes for Crown land.
The honourable member for Edmonton Whiteman has moved first reading of Bill 218, an act to amend the Crown Property Municipal Grants Act. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 218, an act to amend the Crown Property Municipal Grants Act, introduced by the honourable member, Mr. Wickman, is now read a first time.
Member for Vegreville.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request leave to introduce Bill 219, an act to amend the Marketing of Agricultural Products Act.
This act, if passed, would require that producer plebiscites be held prior to the establishment of any commission collecting refundable levies from farmers, examples like the Western Barley Growers Commission or the Canola Growers Commission.
Page. The Honourable Member for Vegreville has moved first reading of Bill 219, an act to amend the Marketing of Agricultural Products Act. Those in favor of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 219, an act to amend the Marketing of Agricultural Products Act, introduced by the Honourable Member Mr. Fox, is now read a first time.
Clover Bar.
Mr. Speaker, I request leave to introduce a bill being an act to amend the Alberta Heritage Savings Trust Fund Act. The purpose of this bill is to create a new division under the Alberta Heritage Savings Trust Fund, the Environmental Investment Division. The division is intended to consider investments for projects that will provide short and long-term benefits to the people of Alberta through enhancement of our environment and through reduction of pollution.
The Honourable Member for Clover Bar has moved first reading to Bill 220, an act to amend the Alberta Heritage Savings Trust Fund Act. Those in favor of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. So ordered.
Bill number 220, an act to amend the Alberta Heritage Savings Trust Fund Act, introduced by the Honourable Member Mr. Gazelle, is now read a first time.
Member for Lacombe.
Mr. Speaker, I beg leave to introduce Bill 221, an act to amend the Daylight Saving Time Act. Mr. Speaker, when this bill is passed, it will make daylight saving time year-round.
The Honourable Member for Lacombe has moved first reading to Bill 221, an act to amend the Daylight Saving Time Act. Those in favor of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried. Order, please. It's not customary to comment during first readings, honourable members. Clerk.
Bill number 221, an act to amend the Daylight Savings Time Act, introduced by the Honourable Member Mr. Moore, is now read a first time.
Member for Clover Bar.
Mr. Speaker, I request leave to introduce a bill, Bill 222, an act to amend the Planning Act. The purpose of this amendment is threefold. The one, that the dedication for deferred reserves should not exceed 10% of the original titled area. Two, to overcome situations where private land may be frozen through municipal bylaws. Three, that joint general municipal plans may be mandatory.
The Honourable Member for Clover Bar has moved first reading to Bill 222, an act to amend the Planning Act. Those in favor of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 222, an act to amend the Planning Act, introduced by the Honourable Member Mr. Gazelle, is now read a first time.
Edmonton Highlands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg leave to introduce Bill number 223, an act to provide for elected representation on post-secondary educational institute boards. Plain and simple, Mr. Speaker, this puts an end to either political or patronage appointments to post-secondary education institutions and allows stakeholder groups to elect their representatives to those institutions.
The Honourable Member for Edmonton Highlands has moved first reading to Bill 223, an act to provide for elected representation on post-secondary educational institutional boards. Those in favor of first reading, please say aye. Opposed, please say no. Passed by a bare majority.
Bill number 223, an act to provide for elected representation on post-secondary educational institute boards, introduced by the Honourable Member Ms. Barrett, is now read a first time.
Calgary Forest Lawn.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request leave to introduce a Bill 226, which is the Public Accounts Committee Act. This bill would enhance the powers of the Public Accounts Committee, thereby strengthening an important link in the public accountability chain.
The honourable member for Calgary Forest Lawn has moved first reading of Bill 226, Public Accounts Committee Act. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 226, Public Accounts Committee Act, introduced by the honourable member, Mr. Pashak, is now read a first time.
Edmonton Beverly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I request leave to introduce Bill 227, a bill to provide a rent review act. This bill, when passed, would provide for a rent review process which would be of benefit to both tenants and landlords.
The honourable member for Edmonton Beverly has moved first reading to Bill 227, Rent Review Act. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 227, Rent Review Act, introduced by the honourable member, Mr. Wozniak, is now read a first time.
Rocky Mountain House.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg leave to introduce a bill being an act to amend the Workers' Compensation Act. This amendment would allow workers the option of having coverage if they're a owner-operator.
The honourable member for Rocky Mountain House has moved first reading to Bill 229, an act to amend the Workers' Compensation Act. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 229, an act to amend the Workers' Compensation Act, introduced by the honourable member, Mr. Lund, is now read a first time.
Member for Ponoka-Rimby.
Mr. Speaker, I request leave to introduce a bill being Bill 291, an act to amend the Employment Standards Code. Mr. Speaker, this bill proposes changes to the Employment Standards Code in order that employees can avail themselves of the maternity leave and parental benefits available under the Federal Unemployment Insurance Program.
The honourable member for Ponoka-Rimby has moved first reading to Bill 291, an act to amend the Employment Standards Code. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say no. Carried.
Bill number 291, an act to amend the Employment Standards Code, introduced by the honourable member, Mr. Johnson, is now read a first time.
Calgary Glenmore.
Mr. Speaker, I request leave to introduce a bill being an act to amend the Employment Pensions Plan Act, Bill number 301. The purpose of this amendment is to clarify pension plans for private sector individuals and public sector individuals to make their pension plans the same. Thank you.
The honourable member for Calgary Glenmore has moved first reading to Bill 301, an act to amend the Employment Pension Plans Act. Those in favour of first reading, please say aye. Opposed, please say no. Motion carries.
Bill number 301, an act to amend the Employment Pensions Plans Act, introduced by the honourable member, Mrs. Myrosh, is now read a first time. Returns and reports.
Minister of the Environment.
Speaker, it gives me pleasure to table the annual report of Alberta Environment.
Honourable members, I am pleased to table the 1990 annual report of the Legislative Assembly Office, and in addition I am tabling all Member Services Committee orders passed since December the 14th, 1990, pursuant to the Legislative Assembly Act.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to table copies of a letter from the Alberta Forestry Products Association indicating their concern that the government's commitment of resources is insufficient to meet its obligations under the government's own free-to-grow reforestation regulations.
Introduction of special guests.
That the Minister of Culture, Multiculturalism.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think I'm about to introduce a group of people who are leaving the galleries now, but nevertheless I will. We have a group from the Avalon Junior High School here who are also hosting a group from Quebec. There are 64 in all in both the members and public galleries. Included with the students are teachers Claudette McLean, Mary Claire Foster, and Roger Bellevaux. and parent Mrs. Francesca Jost. I'd ask us to give the standard traditional greeting to the teachers and students.
Minister of Education, followed by Edmonton Whiteman, followed by Calgary Glenmore.
Mr. Speaker, it's a pleasure for me on behalf of the MLA for Edmonton Glenora to introduce a very special group of visiting students today, a group from the Glenora Elementary School. They are some 20 students in number, along with their teacher, Mrs. Shirley Pekonich, and parents Stuart Steinhauer, Betty Ann Rostrop, Hillary Field, and Susan Gilbertson. Mr. Speaker, I know they've been watching us for the last 40 minutes, and they will go back and write, I am sure, a spine-tingling report on their visit to the legislature, and I would ask them to rise and receive the very warm welcome of our House.
Edmonton Whiteman.
Okay. Mr. Speaker, I wish to introduce to you and through you to members of the Legislative Assembly 44 students from Vernon Barford Junior High. They're accompanied by 5 teachers: Wendy Ioannidis, Sherry Kaiser, Elle Grossman, Diane Pasick, and Pat Shields. Unfortunately, they may have left the galleries because of the introduction of the bills, and they may now receive the warm welcome of the House through Hansard.
Calgary Glenmore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is indeed my pleasure to introduce to you and to members of the gallery representatives from the Alberta Association of Social Workers. They have helped me for the past 2 years in putting together the Social Workers Act, Bill number 4. I'd like to introduce Margaret Dewhurst, past president, if you wouldn't mind standing, Margaret, and Margaret Duncan, executive director, Linda Cargill, council member, Debbie Morrison-Wright, council member, and her daughter, Amy Nadeau. They're in the members' gallery. Would you please, did I miss somebody? Would you please rise, as you are, and receive a warm welcome.
Minister of Forestry, Lands and Wildlife, followed by the member for Redwater Andrew.
Mr. Speaker, it gives me a great deal of pleasure today to introduce 2 individuals from the town of Fort Macleod who are up here today to meet with the Minister of Municipal Affairs and also the Minister of Culture with respect to their historic downtown. They're 2 members of the Town Council, Mr. Mike Dawson, Mr. Sean Parsons. They're in the members' gallery, and I would ask them to rise and receive the customary warm welcome.
Redwater Andrew.
Mr. Speaker, it's a pleasure for me today to introduce to you and to the rest of the Assembly 4 special people from Redwater Andrew constituency who are meeting today with the Solicitor General, a group of them, and they are firstly Mr. George Topolnitsky, my predecessor and MLA who served in this House from 1971 to 1986, Mr. Albert Holubovich, Administrator of the Village of Andrew, and 2 special guests, Mr. Mike Kapicki and Mr. Bill Wojcik. Would they please rise in the members' gallery?
Ministerial statements. Oral question period.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, to the Premier. Mr. Speaker, late Friday afternoon, Novotel announced that it was going to lay off 222 employees at its Lethbridge manufacturing plant. Mr. Speaker, we also heard from the Minister of Telecommunications that one of the reasons for the deep problems Novotel is having is that it must compete against larger diversified telecommunications companies. Ironically, Mr. Speaker, this is exactly the type of company that AGT was before this government ripped it apart, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Alberta taxpayers are now stuck with a company that posted over $200 million in losses in 1990 alone, and we're on the hook for over $500 million more in guarantees. My question to the Premier is this. Given that the Minister of Telecommunications said on Friday that the privatization of AGT was a total success, Mr. Speaker, will the Premier tell us if he also views this as a total success?
Well, Mr. Speaker, obviously the Honourable Leader of the Opposition is mixing 2 points in one question. One is regarding the privatization of TELUS, and if he will just review Hansard, he will see the details that the Minister gave to the House, which show the success of the TELUS privatization. He also is raising at the same time the matter of Novotel, which the Minister dealt with and said that it was a problem and that there was an action plan that to either put the company back on firm footing or perhaps even close it. Now, Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Minister has been quite straightforward with putting out all the information for the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
He may be straightforward to you, Mr. Premier, but he's certainly not straightforward to the taxpayers of Alberta who are pretty upset about this. Now, Mr. Speaker, the point that I want to make is this company was in business before as one company, not as two. Now all we have is the losses and, in terms of taxpayers' dollars, and Lethbridge people losing their jobs. That's the reality of it, Mr. Speaker. And my question is simply this to the Premier. Given that the Minister of Telecommunications has totally failed to protect the public interest in this affair, $200 million, 222 jobs down, that may be just the beginning, Mr. Speaker. Will the Premier respect the tradition of parliamentary democracy, hold his minister responsible for this fiasco, and ask for this minister's resignation immediately?
Mr. Speaker, I was in a joking way going to suggest I would sleep on the question and think about it. Absolutely not, Mr. Speaker. I'm not considering in any way asking for the resignation of the minister. He's dealing with his portfolio in a straightforward and effective way, doing a fine job for the people of Alberta that he represents. And I don't know where the Leader of the Opposition is coming from with that kind of a request.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the Premier may find this a joking matter, but the taxpayers of Alberta don't find it a joking matter.
That's right, they just lost the
We don't have money for advanced education, health care, but we have money to put into this company, Mr. Speaker. If he finds that funny, I don't. My question is to the Premier then. Saying that I don't know what it would take to get fired around here, $200 million obviously won't do it, Mr. Speaker. But my question then to the Premier won't do the right thing and ensure that the buck stops at that cabinet minister over there. Will he at least call a public inquiry to get to this bottom of this fiasco before we lose millions more in this whole deal, Mr. Speaker?
Mr. Speaker, to be clear, when I was referring to the Honourable Leader of the Opposition's previous question, I think him yelling about the minister being forced to resign is silly. It has nothing to do with the serious nature of Novotel, which the minister has dealt with in the House and explained to everybody, and he has told them about the plan that's in place. I see no reason why there should now be some huge inquiry taking all kinds of taxpayers' dollars to look into it. The member has told the House about the action plan that's in place, and we're looking forward to see that action plan followed through, and we trust that it ends up with a successful company continuing into the future.
Second main question, Leader of the Opposition.
It's awful silly that we've lost $200 million this fiasco. That's what's silly, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the provincial treasurer. Mr. Speaker, 3 weeks ago, the federal Conservatives brought down their 1991 budget, a budget which frankly hurt working families across the country and which specifically hurt this province, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this budget will cut $1.2 billion in transfer payments over the next 5 years to our health care and educational systems. Other provincial treasurers were outraged right across this country, Mr. Speaker. What was our provincial treasurer's response? Why, he said he applauded his federal party and he said that this represents Alberta's agenda, Mr. Speaker. My question to the provincial treasurer, will the provincial treasurer explain to Albertans how cutting federal money from Alberta schools and hospitals represents Alberta's agenda?
I'd love to hear.
Mr. Speaker, let me begin by saying the member knows full well that this government places the highest possible priority in health and education. And I may as well get that out right away, Mr. Speaker, because through the course of the next 3 months, that will be confirmed by a business plan, a budget plan, which will simply identify those priorities and provide adequate money to meet those commitments. Now, we have done that consistently, Mr. Speaker. The second point, Mr. Speaker, is that the people of Alberta and the people of Canada expect governments to reduce the size of their spending. That commitment is clear on behalf of this government. We have taken an action plan going back to 1985-86, which will bring us to a balanced budget. And that's what the people of Alberta are asking for, Mr. Speaker, and that's what this government is planning to deliver. Thirdly, Mr. Speaker, with respect to the unloading of costs, well, of course, the province of Alberta would like to have more money, and of course, we would like to see more dollars transferred to other provinces on behalf of the federal government. But one thing the member from Norwood forgets, that we may well be Albertans and have Albertan commitments at our heart, but we're also Canadians, Mr. Speaker. We all have to be jointly responsible for a deficit and a debt which by now is close to $400 billion. And Mr. Speaker, we all have to...
Thank you, Honourable Provincial Treasurer. Supplementary.
Well, Mr. Speaker, that's so nice of the provincial treasurer to worry. We'll cut back in our hospitals. We'll cut back, in our schools and advanced education institutions. Mr. Speaker, my question to the treasurer is a very simple one. He's prepared to do this to get tax points. The old disentanglement argument again. I've heard him say it, Mr. Speaker. And I say to this treasurer, my question is to him, this is before the Deputy Premier has announced a new committee to go around and talk about precisely this, what the federal government should have and the provincial government. How does the treasurer justify making public statements on federal-provincial relationships that completely prejudge what this committee is supposed to do, Mr. Speaker? How does he justify?
Now, Mr. Speaker, there's a spurious argument. What you see here, Mr. Speaker, is a traditional response by the not-knowing member from Norwood. What he has said, Mr. Speaker, is that the traditions of this government and the traditions of Canada, whereby the provinces participate on tax transfers, which have been clearly recognized by the Fiscal Arrangements Acts in this country going back over the past decade, should be changed for some reason, Mr. Speaker. Now, that isn't in any way changing whether it's a constitutional position of this province or the constitutional debate which is about to come, Mr. Speaker. That's pure nonsense. What we do have before us in this province, Mr. Speaker, is the following. One of the strongest economies in this country, real growth rates taking place, the lowest unemployment, as the member from Manpower has pointed out, and what the budget points out, Mr. Speaker, is that interest rates are going to come down. And you know what that means, Mr. Speaker? That means more jobs for Albertans, more investment in this province, and a stronger rebound. That's what we want, and that's why he doesn't like it.
I'm not sure, Mr. Speaker, I'm not sure that had anything to do with my question, but it was a nice speech anyhow, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, now my question clearly, in terms of fiscal provincial relations, if you start to take tax points away from the federal government, then you're going to erode national programs like Medicare. It's very clear, Mr. Speaker. My question to the treasurer then, how would the federal government enforce national standards in Medicare if they didn't have the right to tax and present that money to the provinces? How would they do it, Mr. Speaker?
Mr. Speaker, here again we have the centralist view of the New Democratic Party. They always look to Ottawa for the best plan. We look to the people of Alberta for all policies, Mr. Speaker, and that is what contrasts us to that socialist party across the way. Let us point out, Mr. Speaker, that in terms of cash transfers under established program financing, you will see, and I will probably provide an opportunity to debate it at some point, that the dollars provided by the federal government to the provinces are now moving towards zero. Moving towards zero, Mr. Speaker. Whereas the tax points that have been given to the provinces are the dynamic base. They're growing. Why are they growing, Mr. Speaker? Because the economy of Alberta is growing. More people at work, higher employment levels, more income, and that means more tax dollars come to the province of Alberta. That's how it works, Mr. Speaker. It's a simple equation. I'll put it in black and white if he likes it, but I still don't think you'd understand.
Thank you very much. Edmonton Glengarry on behalf of the Liberal Party.
Mr. Speaker, last week my colleague, the member from Edmonton Meadowlark, tabled certain leaked letters that relate to the illegal logging being done by Canfor in buffer areas that are alongside rivers and a lake. Today we note that a senior forestry official is calling for a police investigation with respect to that leaked information. My questions are to the Premier. Will the Premier agree that this kind of leaked information is exactly the kind of information that would and should be available to Albertans under Freedom of Information legislation, which should be put in place in our province?
Well, Mr. Speaker, that's a pretty tortuous route to get to his representation about freedom of information legislation. Frankly, Mr. Speaker, there's a tremendous amount of information available to the public and the members of this legislature. We've seen it come in here and go in wheelbarrows full of information for the honorable members when they request it. Now, it is true that there are occasions when you're dealing with the health of an individual or perhaps the competitive nature of a person or a company or the security of your country where that kind of information can't be put out. But basically, Mr. Speaker, the information's all available.
Mr. Speaker, given that the protection of the environment is the ultimate goal of every Albertan, and given that the leaking of the information is a positive step to protect the environment, will the Premier agree to direct his officials to stop police activity or police action on these individuals or individuals?
Mr. Speaker, I guess the honourable member, being a lawyer, knows that if there are laws, the laws have to be obeyed, and that the police are there to enforce the laws. Now, surely the honourable member is wise enough to know that. And if the honourable member feels that he wants to be like any other member, and I think perhaps he may have done it today, put freedom of information legislation before the House, all he has to do is convince the legislature. That's all. Do a good job, convince the legislature, and you get the legislation.
Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Premier is doing a very bad job in informing Albertans. It's day after day and hour after hour that questions are put regarding Pocklington and Kananaskis and every other item. I'd like to know, Mr. Speaker, given that almost every government in Canada now has freedom of information legislation except Alberta, I'd like the Premier to explain why it should be held back from Albertans the way it is. And use any example you want. Kananaskis, Pocklington, Bill Mackay, they're all...
You've asked your question.
I guess, Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Leader of the Liberal Party wasn't listening when I answered in the first question he raised. And that is, the reason is that it's not being held back. I mean, information is made available by the wheelbarrow loads here in this legislature. We mail it to people. It's provided on a day-to-day basis. And so what we've done is make sure that Albertans get all the information they require. And as I said, even Beauchesne makes the case that when it's the health of an individual or if it's a competitive nature of a person or a corporation or the security of your country, that you would not do it. But all of the information's available, and for the honourable member to try and make the case differently is just wrong. But again, I challenge him. Try and convince the Assembly. Do a good job of convincing the Assembly, and you'll end up with the legislation if you need it.
Calgary Glenmore.
Mr. Speaker, recently my constituents have expressed a great deal of concern regarding the government's substantive decentralization program that they feel is in place, and it has caused a great deal of uneasiness. And my question is to the Premier, could the Premier outline the direction or policy that this government has with regards to any decentralization program?
Mr. Speaker, I want to make it very clear to the Assembly, to the honourable member, that this government is very strongly and firmly committed to a policy of balanced growth across this province. We know that the cities are strong and are growing and can take care of themselves. But we also know, and I think a lot of members know, that rural areas are not. And they need particular initiatives to make sure that balanced growth is all across this province. And we are going to make sure that we do everything we possibly can. And, Mr. Speaker, we have good examples where it has worked. I think of AOC in Pinoka, the Agriculture Development Corporation in Camrose, the School Book Branch in Barrhead, the Hale and Crop in Lacombe, and there are many examples. And we're going to continue to try and have balanced growth across the province, always with the idea of making sure it's efficient and effective delivery of services. Now, just one more thing, Mr. Speaker, because I have given a special responsibility to the Minister of Municipal Affairs to make sure that the government's initiatives are coordinated. And I would ask the Honourable Minister of Municipal Affairs if he might want to comment on the Local Development Initiatives Program, which he is heading up.
Yeah. Perhaps the supplementary will go that direction. Calgary Glenmore.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To the Minister of Municipal Affairs, a few months ago, the Minister did circulate the Local Development Initiative Plan. I was wondering if perhaps the Minister could update this Assembly with regards to the program.
Right on. Mr. Speaker, the Local Development Initiative Program is a program to bring about balanced growth across the province of Alberta. It's a program that was developed with many local governments across this province, whereby the Ministers' Council spent a major portion of 1990 talking to people in their local governments, in their communities, and asked for recommendations. The basic recommendation was that we as communities would like to help ourselves in terms of our economic future, but as a provincial government, we would like you to give us backup support and act as facilitators and encourage us in our initiatives. We as a government feel that that's a very respectable approach and one that we wish to pursue with local governments to bring about balanced economic growth in this province.
The Belmont, followed by Edmonton Meadowlark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My questions are for the Minister of Career Development and Employment. Mr. Speaker, in the throne speech, it notes that there's concern by the government in the area of health and safety for workers. Indeed, the Manpower Development Act has paramount concern for the general safety of the public and people at the work site. And yet the proposed Industry and Training Act will permit certification without a comprehensive training provided through the apprenticeship for all trades but those proficiency trades. Given that the changes will result in fewer workers taking those important safety training courses, how can this government justify putting workers and the public at large at serious risk?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I don't know what all the applause is for, because if there was some research done, I think they'd be quite surprised. Obviously, the honourable member is looking into his crystal ball and coming up with the wrong answer. If he'd wait, Mr. Speaker, until the legislation is introduced, I'm sure he would find that it's not in deference to what he has already stated. So I don't believe that's any attempt to mislead the House. I would just ask to be a little more patient, because there's certainly no cutting back of the apprenticeship system. And in fact, the Apprenticeship and Industry Act as is being proposed will strengthen the overall system and not lessen.
Well, Mr. Speaker, there are a number of people in the industry and in the trade union movement that would certainly disagree with that. And when industry is not compelled to provide adequate training, what happens is that public safety goes down, worker job site safety goes way down, and the only thing that goes up are profits for companies that are taking advantage of it. So I asked the minister, will the minister today admit that the only thing that safety standards are going to do is being sacrificed for the expense of friends of the government so that they can make more profits on the backs of workers?
Well, Mr. Speaker, once again, I'm unable to deal with the question because he's not dealing with the facts. And I think if the honourable member, as I stated earlier, will wait to see what happens with the legislation as proposed, he'll be more than pleased. I might indicate, though, that he has said and stated that there's some people from industry and from labour are not pleased. I will accept that it's going to be awful tough to please all groups, but I believe there's a balance. And I think he'll find that the majority of people from Building Trades Council and other groups will be very supportive of the revised and proposed legislation.
Edmonton Meadowlark.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in a letter dated December 3rd, 1990, the president of the Alberta Forest Products Association indicated his industry's grave concern that the government has not committed adequate resources to fulfill its own obligations under its own reforestation regulations entitled Free to Grow. To the Minister of Forestry, Lands and Wildlife, how can the minister tell us that his regulatory program will ensure proper reforestation when the government has itself failed to make sufficient commitment to carry out its own obligations under this program?
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased that the honourable member finally mentioned what date the letter is. I don't recall the letter particularly, and it would be helpful if the honourable member would send the letter over prior so I'd have an opportunity to review it. But I must say this, the Free to Grow standards that are mentioned were made effective March 1, 1991, and the most stringent regulations anywhere in the country, and they ensure that our forests grow for tomorrow. And I can assure you, Mr. Speaker, that the strategy in my department is to make sure we also, in this government, fulfill our obligations on forests that we're responsible for.
Mr. Speaker, why should the government, that is the taxpayers of Alberta, pay for reforestation in any event when it would be much more appropriate that a levy be placed on the industry which benefits from cutting down these trees in the first place?
Mr. Speaker, that sounds nice if you don't use common sense. But common sense would tell you that you have areas that have been burned in the past and haven't regenerated properly. You have areas that were cut in the past at some time, and that company may or may not be in business. So, Mr. Speaker, we have wide areas that we need to look at making sure reforestation is done properly, and it falls to the government in those cases to do that. And I assure the honourable member in this assembly that that's exactly what we intend to do.
Lesser Slave Lake, followed by Edmonton Calder.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Wellwood plant in Slave Lake has recently given notice for its closure. Unfortunately, this affects some 112 jobs at the mill site in an area of high unemployment, also resulting in serious consequences to contractors and other supporting services. Can the people of Lesser Slave Lake get the commitment from the Minister of Forestry, Lands and Wildlife that the FMA stays in the area so we can ensure a developer has the ability to use the FMA for development in the Lesser Slave Lake constituency?
Well, Mr. Speaker, first of all, it's truly unfortunate that the Wellwood mill had to close. It's not only unfortunate when a mill like that closes for the company itself, but it's truly unfortunate for the employees of that company. The plant closure came about because of the very difficult times in the panel board industry and the solid wood industry today. And Wellwood is also searching out if there is a company that could take over the plant. And I want to assure the honourable member that it would be our intention to make sure that wood supply that was designated for the Wellwood plant, for at least for the foreseeable future, will be held to see that if we can find someone that would come in and utilize that mill in Slave Lake and hopefully employ people again.
In view of this disastrous situation, could the minister ensure that a decision for Polybird be made as quickly as possible to help alleviate some of the unemployment?
Well, Mr. Speaker, there are two proposals for that particular high prairie region. One is the Polyboard proposal, and the other one is the YFY project. And we are moving as quickly as possible, Mr. Speaker, to review those two projects, and hopefully a decision will be forthcoming.
Edmonton Calder.
Mr. Speaker, my questions are to the Minister of Labour. Alberta's minimum wage is the lowest in Western Canada and has not been increased for 3 years. There are 43,000 families working in Alberta and still living in poverty. In view of the Minister's public comment that $4.50 an hour is an unlivable wage, will the Minister make a commitment to the working poor of this province and tell them when specifically the government is going to raise the minimum wage?
Mr. Speaker, the comment to which the honourable member is referring is no doubt this. Working with the poverty line established by the National Council on Welfare for a single parent and 2 children living in Edmonton or Calgary, it would take the equivalent of something like $10.50 an hour to reach the poverty line. For a single person, it would take a considerably lesser amount per hour, and of course not living in the larger metropolitan centres would take less as well. I can advise the Assembly, Mr. Speaker, that the minimum wage is under review, particularly since the economy of Alberta is outperforming anyone else in this country, and we will be looking at this issue over the next few months.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, the last time this government reviewed the minimum wage, it took 8 years to get an increase, Mr. Speaker. And it's worrisome that this minister may stand alone amongst her Conservative colleagues when it comes to supporting the increase in the minimum wage. I would ask the minister, will the minister outline her plan of action to bring government members on side so that the government will raise the minimum wage in this session?
Mr. Speaker, the last time the minimum wage was raised was 1988, and we are reviewing it again.
Thank you, Vegreville. Vegreville.
Thank you, Mr.
Order, please. Vegreville.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There have over the last several months been many confirmed cases of tuberculosis found on game ranches in the province of Alberta, posing a threat not only to the captive elk, but to elk in the wild and cattle in the province of Alberta. And there have been some cases discovered of threats to people involved in the industry as well. This in addition to millions of dollars of public money going into compensation for people whose animals have to be destroyed as a result of this tuberculosis infestation. And I'd just like to ask the Minister of Agriculture why he has steadfastly refused to suspend proclamation of the bill legalizing the sale of elk meat, and why he's steadfastly refused to allow full public investigation and review of this whole matter before it gets any more serious.
Mr. Speaker, as I've stated on previous occasions in the House, the control of disease among animals is a federal government responsibility. Agriculture Canada, I think, still has effectively dealt with the situation and are continuing to effectively deal with it. As I stated when we took Bill 31 through and in subsequent discussions, if you're really concerned about control of disease, the meat inspection system that comes along with the slaughtering at the slaughterhouse is one of the best ways of detecting disease in its early stages.
Well, we're in trouble now.
Mr. Speaker, now that Agriculture Canada has announced that they will put strict and reasonable limits on the amount that's paid for elk that have to be destroyed, will the Minister of Agriculture assure Albertans that he will not yield to pressure from the Game Growers Association to supplement that compensation with provincial money?
Good idea. Mr. Speaker, and in my opinion, he who is fulfilling and carrying out the responsibility, which in this case is the federal government through Agriculture Canada, are responsible for dealing with the compensation. That is a matter of debate between the game growers and Agriculture Canada.
Edmonton Whitemud.
Speaker, there is an apparent conflict on the use of lottery funds within the government caucus. The Minister of Education is publicly stating that the use of funds should be expanded to include core services such as education, health, and social services. My concern is that any discussion regarding the future use of lottery funds will be held behind government closed doors, away from this Assembly and away from the public. Mr. Speaker, to the Premier, will he give us assurances that all members of this Assembly will have the opportunity to participate in discussions and the decision-making process before determining the final outcome of lottery revenues?
Mr. Speaker, I don't think it's unusual that different people might have different views about how lottery funds are used. I don't see anything particularly strange about that. At all. Frankly, Mr. Speaker, the government has a responsibility to handle the funds which it controls, and it's the government's job to make those decisions. That's what the people elected the government for, and we're going to do it. The honourable member should, if he wants, he can put a motion on the order paper and have full discussion in the legislature, and I welcome him to do it.
Bring it forward. We'll participate. Mr. Speaker, to the minister responsible for lotteries and now also the Gaming Commission, the minister who prides himself as being a rural kingmaker with the use of lottery funds, does the minister have a master plan for the use of current surpluses of lottery funds reported to be as high as $300 million, and will he file any such documents within this assembly?
Straighten them out, Kenny. Straighten them out.
Mr. Speaker, as I've indicated on several public occasions in the last year, in fact, that the surplus of the lottery fund as of April 1, 1990 is $237 million. And in response to the second question, the answer is yes.
Member for Highwood.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In a recent speech to the McDonald Cartier Club, the Minister of the Environment stated that the current 60-year-old Water Resources Act was primarily designed to license consumptive uses of water, and as such is not effective at recognizing that certain flow qualities and quantities are necessary to maintain the overall health of rivers and streams and the fish, wildlife, and vegetation they support. My question, Mr. Speaker, to the Minister reflects on an issue in my constituency. Clarification, Mr. Minister, when the new Water Resources Act is passed, will it impact on the proposed Little Bow Reservoir project, which will use water from the Highwood River?
Mr. Speaker, it will probably impact on the operation of both the reservoir that will be filled and the diversion weir, which, if approved through the EIA, the Environmental Impact Assessment process, will be widened and upgraded. But the process will continue. There's a public advisory group in place right now to determine the inflow requirements for the Highwood River. Basically, the rewrite of the Water Resources Act won't occur until probably the spring of 1992 or the fall of 1992. And basically, it won't be rewritten until there is a full public consultation with Albertans. In other words, Albertans will have every opportunity to advise the government and assist the government in the rewrite of this particular act. And in the future, hopefully, it will help to avoid problems such as those that have occurred along the Highwood as it respects the Little Bow River.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, my supplementary question then is again to the Minister of Environment. Will this act require new IFN and EIA studies, therefore changing the proposed timetable for this Little Bow project?
No, it's not proposed, Mr. Speaker, that the rewrite of this act affect any programs that are now ongoing. The process that is now in place to determine a proper inflow requirement for the Highwood River will continue, and the environmental impact assessment will be based on the current procedures to determine those inflow requirements.
Stony Plain.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, due to the government's chronic underfunding of the education system from the general revenues, the Minister of Education is desperately trying to shift the burden of education funding onto local taxpayers. And in addition, he's even trying to access the lottery coffers. Will the Minister now admit that the provincial government has an obligation to fund a certain percentage of basic education from the general revenues and commit to convincing his caucus colleagues to provide a guaranteed proportion of the education funds required so that educators can plan properly for the future?
Mr. Speaker, the inequities that exist in education funding across this province are due primarily to the different distribution in the wealth of this province, Mr. Speaker. For primarily related to economic development that occurs unevenly across this province. And what we are trying to do after a series of discussions, Mr. Speaker, is come up with the best possible solution to a problem that besets a number of school boards across the province. And Mr. Speaker, I only have to look at any number of boards, and I think of the board of my colleague to my left here, the County of Barrhead Board of Education, which levies 13.3 mills and raises $1,230, vis-a-vis another school board in the province that levies 2.3 mills and raises $3,340. Mr. Speaker, I have to ask the honourable member across the way, does he think that that is fair? That that is a fair way to fund education? Well, Mr. Speaker, we on this side of the House do not believe it is fair, and we are trying to find a solution to that problem.
Hear, hear.
Socialist. Mr. Speaker, as usual, the honourable minister wasn't listening, so perhaps I'll take a little different direction. Mr. Speaker, this minister would also like to support basic people services with lottery money, but its allocation is currently not even debated in the Assembly.
Right.
Given that the minister's interest in the distribution of lottery monies, will he now agree that lottery funds should be a part of General Revenue Fund and propose such an amendment to the Lotteries Act so that the views of Albertans can be represented through their MLAs in the allocation of lottery funds?
Mr. Speaker, I expressed a point of view about the use of lottery funds consistent with what the government has used and invested those lottery funds in the past, including investing in medical equipment in a variety of hospitals across this province, and suggested that on a one-time basis they could be used for the same purposes and perhaps upgrading computer technology within our schools. But, Mr. Speaker, I go back to the honourable member's earlier question, which the two, in fact, were supposed to be linked, but I didn't hear that. And what I say to the honourable member and all Albertans who are listening is we are looking for a solution to a problem that besets a number of school boards across this problem, and it's one of fairness. And if the honourable member wants to put it on the record that he doesn't believe in fairness, then that's fine. We know where the NDP stands.
Order, order, order. Very clever, honourable member, but not necessarily in good taste. Westlock Sturgeon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The question is to the Minister of Agriculture. Early last December, the Minister, Mr. Speaker, along with a couple other ministers, toured the southern Alberta dryland areas, and one of the ministers of municipal affairs says the program, the farmers could have the money by the end of the year. I think he meant 1990. I'd like to ask the Speaker, the Minister, in view of the fact that a number of my phone calls have found not one soul yet to have qualified for the money that they so grandiosely offered last November and December, can the Minister explain just what's gone wrong? It's seeding time yet, and the money still hasn't come through.
Mr. Speaker, I would have to say the member is suffering under some misinformation. The summary sheets of the Southeast Disaster Assistance Program that crossed my desk show that the loans are flowing, that a number of millions of dollars are already in the hands of producers down there. We've done, with the input of some of the MLAs of the area, some refinements on the program, and things seem to be working relatively smoothly.
They're smooth, all right. They're still flowing around his desk. I suggested he get up and chase it around to the other corner, wherever he's put it. It hasn't got out to the farmers. The supplemental then, also last fall, they announced that they would not, in a question in legislature, announced to me that you would not consider the husband and wife partnership as a partnership in applying for the loan. Due to the fact that many farm women's groups have pressured the government to change their mind on that, is it still the stand of this minister that he will not consider a husband and wife that are in a legal partnership farming, they will not be considered a partnership?
I think, Mr. Speaker, it's fair to say that the honourable member will be pleased to hear that the Agricultural Development Corporation Board of Directors is currently reviewing the issue that he identifies to see whether or not they can treat husband and wives as two separate applicants, providing they're running specifically separate, if you wish, although in a cooperative way, farming operations.
Edmonton Goldbart. Westlock Sturgeon, please. Order, order, order. Keep it buttoned up. You had your two questions. That doesn't mean you get another two or engage in a shouting match with the chair. Order, please. Order. If it's once more, you're going for a walk. Edmonton Goldbart.
Mr. Speaker, the government has frequently stated their intent to improve the status, dignity, and quality of life for disabled Albertans, reinforced by the Premier's Council in Support of Persons with Disabilities. Therefore, one would assume that the problem surrounding accessibility would be one the government is anxious to solve. Considering, Mr. Speaker, the constant barriers faced by disabled in areas as simple as public and private parking lots, it seems obvious to me that the government isn't all that concerned with the issue, despite the Premier's Council recommendations regarding accessibility. My questions, Mr. Speaker, are to the Premier. Will the Premier ensure that proper changes are made to the Building Code and to the Highway Standards Act that will see disabled parking standards included under the code and allow for provincial enforcement standards?
Mr. Speaker, I don't think you ever have things perfect, and there always can be improvements. The Minister of Education, who works with the Premier's Council on persons with disabilities, is working on these matters, coordinating a large government effort to do everything we possibly can in this area. The Minister may want to supplement my comments. I only say to my friend, the honourable member from Goldbar, that as we will do everything we possibly can.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would have preferred a yes, but perhaps we'll learn more later. Mr. Speaker, my supplementary question to the Premier is then, if it's to be believed that we're doing everything we can, perhaps the Premier can explain to the House how it is that the new provincial building in Medicine Hat is not wheelchair accessible.
Well, Mr. Speaker, the honourable member's information is out of date. It is true that there was a problem, but that problem's been fixed. And just a little better research, I guess, is what you're going to have to get.
Real time.
Calgary Milliken.
Mr. Speaker, in Calgary, in my constituency, there's a company called North Star, also known as sometimes as Vector Ballistics, Maxon, Land Tool, etc. They've gone bankrupt, and a lot of innocent people did not get their wages. And a lot of these people can't afford this kind of money, can't afford to lose their wages. And can the Minister of Labour please explain why her department has not helped these unfortunate people recover or retrieve their hard-earned wages?
Mr. Speaker, it is truly an unfortunate circumstance for the people who have been working for that corporation. However, we have been able to collect almost $250,000 for the employees. There is some $60,000 still outstanding, and we have issued an order against the individual who is a director of the company and should hope to pursue him for the balance.
Supplementary question, Mr. Speaker. Can the Minister explain why this employer can get away with not paying his employees, goes over, starts up another company, carries on the operation, and ends up doing the same thing again? How can he do this? Why?
Mr. Speaker, we did trace the director over to another company under another name and discovered that once again he owes a considerable amount of money to employees, this time about $100,000 to about 90 employees. Again, we have issued orders against all of that, and those, or many, or most of them at least, have been filed as judgments. We are also asking the Department of the Attorney General to review this case with the prospect of perhaps prosecuting the individual in question.
Question period has expired. Might we have unanimous consent to revert briefly to the introduction of special guests? Opposed? Okay. Minister of Forestry, Lands and Wildlife.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased that the Mayor of Fort McLeod has arrived to lead the rest of his council in the meetings this afternoon. He's in the members' gallery. I would ask him to rise. Mr. Terry Lyon.
Standing Order 30, Edmonton Kingsway.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to request leave to move to adjourn the ordinary business of the Assembly to discuss this government's role in privatizing AGT and buying back Novotel Communications, which has led to the massive debt recently reported by Novotel and the major layoffs announced last Friday. Now, Mr. Speaker, I wish to speak to the urgency of this debate, and there's a number of reasons. First, Novotel has already announced 222 layoffs and indicated there may be more in the near future. Now, the workers especially, but all Albertans, deserve to know more of the details as to timing and number, and they need to know why this is happening. So therefore, we need this debate. Second, the fact is that Novotel's hemorrhaging was mostly in the last 3 or 4 months. This $204 million was almost all lost in the latter part of the year. So the people have the right to know, and so far they've been kept in the dark. Now, the minister said he was also kept in the dark, although recently he now claims to know what's going on, and so the reason for this debate is that he can tell the people of Alberta, take them into his confidence. Third, the Premier has said that there will be no public inquiry. So we should at least have a chance to get all the right questions on the floor, even if the government isn't willing to answer them. So, Mr. Speaker, I submit to you that it's urgent that this hemorrhaging be stopped and that the people of Alberta be given a chance to ask the government specific questions, exactly what's going on, why it's going on, and what the government is doing about it in much more detail than has ever been indicated by this government.
Member for Calgary Northwest.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I too would like to support this motion by the member from Edmonton Kingsway. The urgency, Mr. Speaker, was, I think, most clearly driven home only this morning when I listened to the questions being put to the minister by members of the media, and unfortunately, of course, the duties of the House required the minister to leave. But I know that there are a great many questions that I have. I know there are a great many questions that we have in the Liberal Party, as I'm sure the members of the New Democrat caucus also have. And Mr. Speaker, the urgency, in speaking to the urgency, is that we have, this government and this province indirectly has a $525 million loan guarantee backing Novotel, and we have no information to date, Mr. Speaker, as far as I'm aware, as to how much of that has been exercised, how much of that option has been exercised, if it is going to be exercised, and so on. We have a lot of dollars riding on this company, Mr. Speaker. This exposure that we have is very large. I think it is incumbent upon this government to release all the information, all the documentation, and tell us what's going on, and not only what has happened in the past, but where are we likely to go in the future. So I support this motion for urgency.